Hey everyone, it is TK Friday. This is part 3 of a 3-part series on precision adjustments beyond AI. So sit back and relax. Stay tuned. Hello everyone and welcome to the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. Can you believe it? It is TK Friday again. My favorite day of the week, and I hope it is yours too. Hey, thank you so much for joining me every TK Friday, and thanks for all your commenting and your questions and your liking and subscribing. It really helps to grow this channel, and for that, I thank you. And today I have 3 images that I'm working on, and we're going to finish this 3-part series on precision adjustments beyond AI. By the way, if you don't yet own the TK8 plugin for Photoshop, just click on my affiliate link. It's right below in the description. Click on that link. It'll take you to the TK web store. You could purchase training videos, the TK8 plugin for Photoshop, and if you use my promo code DK15, you'll save 15% off your entire purchase. You're supporting the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly when you do that, and for that, I thank you. We'll be working on 3 different images today. They're all dealing with precision adjustments beyond AI. So you're going to have the PDF notes for all of these images. So don't forget to download these PDF notes. They're going to be a great resource to add to your reference library. And it's really going to help you out to get the most out of the TK8 plugin for Photoshop. Well, it's that time, everyone. Are you ready to have some fun? Now, we're going to start out with this first image of a model. I don't do too many of these type of images on this channel, but today we're going to work on this one first. This is going to be the most involved image. The other ones are not quite as involved, but very important, so you want to stay tuned and watch everything. The first thing I want to do is adjust the model's hair. I want to darken up this hair and maybe give it a little bit of a warmer color grade. It looks nice already, but we're going to do a little bit more to it. I'm going to use the object selection tool. I'm going to use the shortcut W to get the object selection tool. And then I'm just going to lasso around the hair and see what kind of a selection AI can give us here. Just like that, and we'll see. Now, it's got her face in here as well, so if you hold your Option key down on a Mac or your Alt key on a PC, hold it down and then just drag around the area you want to eliminate, which is this area right here. And yeah, so now that's gotten rid of that. But that's step 1. And also, if we look at the menu up here, I'm in the lasso mode. You have 2 modes. You have lasso and rectangle. They're both very good, but in a case like hair, the lasso mode makes the most sense. And I always recommend to have sample all layers checked on and hard edges checked on as well. You'll get much better selections when you're doing masking with the TK8 plugin for Photoshop. That's kind of important. Step number 2 is to come up and click on your My Channels button. Click on Active Selection, and now you can see our hair is selected. I want to intersect this with the actual hair color to get a better adjustment. So to do that, we're going to click on the mask calculator, and then we want to do an intersection. That's the X key, or the X button. Click on that. That sets up the calculation. Now we need to click this X to X out of here. And now I need to create a mask. Now I have choices up here. I have all these different masking choices. We have a lot of color here, so the best option here is always going to be the color mask creator. So click on this button. We can make a color mask. Now, I'm just going to sample a color of her hair. I want to darken this hair up a little bit, so I'm going to click on this area right here and click OK. And now I want to lighten up this hair, so I'm going to go ahead and drag this to the right just to lighten up that hair selection. And then we could do some further refinements by clicking on this levels adjustment. This is the one that I like to use. You also have curves that you can use, and the levels is right here. At least it is for me because this is the way I have my Photoshop set up. I'm going to take the midtone slider and drag it to the left just to lighten it up, just like somewhere right around there. I'm going to pull the shadow slider in just a tiny wee bit. And also I'm going to drag in this highlight slider a little bit here. So now I have a really nice selection. And now all that is left is to make the calculation. So click equals. And now we have a nice selection of the hair. Now I'm noticing here's our ear right here. You can always get a brush. Just click on your brush tool. And I'm just going to paint that off right like that. No big deal. Not going to hurt a thing. Now all we need to do is output this mask we've created, and I'm going to output it to a color grading tool. I love this color grading tool because I can lighten, darken, work with shadows, midtones, and highlights, and color grade all with one tool, so that's pretty amazing in my opinion. I'm going to start out with the mid-tone just to darken up the hair. And let's start to pull this to the left. And maybe right around there. Isn't that nice? It looks really nice already. And let's go to shadows. And let me just darken up the shadows just a little bit. Now don't forget that mask is really controlling, what's going to get adjusted. And let's go back to midtones, and I'm just going to warm up the hair just a little bit, just like that. Here's the before and here's the after. So I like it. And if it's too strong, you can come back here and adjust, or else you could take the opacity of that layer and just pull it back a little bit. And I might do that. I might pull it back to say like 88%. Here's the before and here's the after. So that's step one. Now for step two, what I want to do is just darken up the background. Now to do that, we can select our subject and then invert it. But I want to say something about subject selection and the TK8 plugin for Photoshop first. I do have this information documented in your notes, so don't forget, download these PDF notes. I'm going to go ahead and type W to get my object selection tool, or you could click right here on your toolbar. And you'll notice here, see where it says select subject? This is a drop down. If I click this, you notice mine is set for cloud detailed results. What that means, when I click on select subject, it will go up into Adobe's cloud and it'll give me a more accurate selection. If we do it on the device, and it's normally set up by default on the device, if you have it set that way, it'll be quicker. You can always change it back to whatever you want later, but I recommend the cloud detail results if you're on a fast internet, that is. And by the way, and this is very important, this select subject button right here honors whatever this is set for. In other words, mine's set for cloud detailed results. So whenever I click this button, it will always go to the cloud. Now, if you want to say, I don't want to go to the cloud this time, what you would have to do is click the drop down, click on device, and then you would have to click select subject here, because this button will only honor the way the preferences are set up. And I'll show you how to change this in preferences so you can check this on to either device or cloud. Now I'm on a Mac and it may be different on a PC, I'm not sure, but my preferences are right here. If I click on Photoshop, here's preferences, but you know where your preferences are if you're working on a PC, hopefully. What you need to do is come down to image processing and then right here, select subject processing. And if you click this drop down here, you can do device quicker results or cloud detailed results. Just click on the one you want, mine's set for cloud, and then you also have an option here. For selection processing, you can have it faster. If you're having issues with the selection process, you can change it to more stable. I have mine set up with faster. It seems to work well, but you could change it here. If you do change this one, you will need to restart Photoshop. But you don't have to restart Photoshop if you change this from device to cloud. So mine is set for cloud, and then just click OK. It's just that easy. And then when you come up here to select subject, you'll notice it'll always be checked on for cloud. And remember, this button on the combo or CX panel for select subject will always honor what you see here is checked on the drop-down menu for select subject. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and select the subject. So I'm coming to my combo panel and clicking this icon right here. Now when I click it, you'll notice it takes a few seconds here for it to do its thing because it's going up into the cloud. And there it is. It's made my selection. Now that the subject is selected, I don't want the subject. So what I need to do is invert that selection, and the TK8 Combo or CX panel has us covered with this button right here. It's right under the button where you could save this as a channel, which you can. I'm not going to do it right now. But all I'm going to do is click this invert, and our selection is inverted. Now we're selecting the background. Now take notice that we have the color grading tool here right now. We can't see the multi-mask panel. Click this X, and now we can see our multi-mask panel again. And by the way, you could change these the sizes of these different panels. I'm just gonna, you just hover over this area and see the little arrow pops up, and I can just go ahead and drag this up. And the next step is to click this button here. It's the My Channels button, and we want the active selection. So click on active selection, and there it is. The white area is the background, which is what we're going to adjust. And now we need our trusty mask calculator, so click the mask calculator button. I want to intersect the background with the luminosity mask, so I'll click on the X button for an intersection. Next, click on this X button so we can see the multi-mask panel again. And now I want to intersect a luminosity mask, so click on the luminosity mask button. Now the background area is dark, so I'm going to use a darks mask. So I'm going to try a darks 1. So let's click on darks 1 and see how the background becomes light. And I like that, but don't forget, right now we're set on RGB, but we have all these other color channels that we can use. And I like to try these, and sometimes I don't point this out in the videos, but sometimes these other channels can give you a better selection. For instance, let me click on red. Not much change. Let's try green. Okay, there's a little change. Let's try blue. See how blue gives me more of a lighter gray back here. So that's a better selection. Let's try cyan. It's about the same. Here's magenta. Not as good. And here's yellow. Not as good because it's really not selecting this back here. So let me go ahead and click on blue. See how that's giving me a much better selection. And now let's complete that calculation by clicking on this equals button. And now our model is not being selected, but our background is beautifully selected. Now we have to decide, how do we want to output this? Well, I'm going to do something very simple and effective for darkening things, and that is I'm going to use a curves adjustment. I could use a levels adjustment because I will not make any adjustments on those. So I'm just using it, and I'm kind of stealing it for a blend mode. So I'm going to click on this curves adjustment, and now check this out. We don't see anything here, but there's our mask on that curves layer. No adjustment has been made to this curve, but I'm going to change the blend mode to multiply. So click this button on the combo or CX panel for multiply. That's multiply blend mode, and check it out. Isn't that beautiful? Here's the before and here's the after. And if it's too strong, and I think it is, I'm going to pull back on this opacity to somewhere right around here, 71%. Here's the before and here's the after, but now you can see our model is just really coming forward. And I like it. And now as I examine the image, I think this area right here is too light, as well as this sidewalk. So I'd like to darken those down. Again, precision adjustments beyond AI. So we're going to go ahead and grab our object selection tool. I'm going to type W, my shortcut for my object selection tool. For this adjustment here, I think I'm going to grab a rectangle and just do like a marquee right around this area and see how it selects it. Yeah, it selects it rather nicely right there. Now for down here, I may need the lasso tool, but let's try the rectangle tool. Now this is important. If you want to add to a selection, you got to hold your shift key down. If you don't, you'll lose this selection, and then it'll just make this one. So I'm going to hold my shift key down, and let me drag like right around this area like this, and let's see what it does. Well, yeah, it got most of it, and let me hold the shift key again, and let me drag right here. And now I got that all selected. So there we go. So now I have 2 selections. And now the next step is to come up here and click on the My Channels button. Click on Active Selection, and there are my selections. Now I need the trusty mask calculator. So click on the mask calculator button. We're going to do an intersection. So click on the X for intersection. And now we can click X so we can see the multi-mask panel. And I think another luminosity mask, so let's click on the luminosity mask button. This is a lighter area, so I'm going to use a lights 1. I believe that'll work for it. And we could try these different color channels, see if we can make it even lighter. There's green, here's blue, cyan, magenta, and yellow. Not much difference. I think RGB is going to be the way to go. And now we could do some further refining to make this lighter. So let's click on our levels adjustment, and we can make an adjustment here. I'm going to take the midtone and slide it to the left to really lighten that up, like somewhere around there. I might just tighten it in a little bit and take the highlight slider and drag it to the left to make it a little bit lighter. And I think somewhere right around there. You don't want to lose any detail in here. That's very important. Now, the lighter we make this area while not losing detail will make the adjustment a stronger adjustment. And next, let's complete the calculation by clicking on the equals. And now we have that lights 1 right on the window and the sidewalk. Let's do what we did last time. Output it to a curves adjustment layer and change its blend mode to multiply. And now our window and sidewalk is darkened, and that looks much better. Here is the before, and here's after. And remember, if it's too strong, you can pull back in the opacity. But I think I like it. I'm going to leave it just the way it is. And now when I look at the image, this handbag looks a little too light to me. If I was doing like a campaign, an ad for like a handbag company, this may be acceptable. But it's all about the model, so I want to darken this to bring the emphasis more on the model. The handbag is brown. I think a color mask would be great. So let's click the color mask button. And let's click on a color of the handbag, maybe right here, because I want to darken it. Click OK. And that looks pretty good, but let's lighten that up by adjusting this brightness slider to the right. Let's lighten it up a good bit. And I think right about there looks good, but I think I can do better. Let's grab a levels adjustment and let me really just tighten this up. I'm going to take this shadow slider and drag it into right about here. And take the highlight slider and drag it into right about, I think, here. And see, I'm getting really nice separation. Now, I have a little issue right here, but let's come up here. See this bar with all the colors on here? I think I could take this bottom circle and drag it to the left and see if I can tighten that up. Yeah, look at that. See how I can tighten that up? Now, I have a little area right here, but that's not a problem because I'm going to lasso around here. I'm not going to use an AI tool here this time. I may have went a little too far with this adjustment, so let me just drag it to the right. Yeah, right there. See, now I'm getting a better selection right there. This little bit in here is not going to be an issue because, look, I can come here and grab this black brush, make my brush a little bit larger, 100% opacity, nice soft edge, and just paint this area right off. Not a problem. And now let's grab our lasso tool. I'm just typing L for my lasso tool. I'll start by lassoing around the strap area, and then we're going to come down, hold your shift key down, remember, and lasso around the actual handbag to add it to the selection. And don't forget our old friend, that's the mask button right here, so click on that. And we don't want to add any feathering, so just click cancel, and there's our handbag selected really well. Now that was the old school way of making a selection. Didn't use any AI there, but I thought I'd throw that in because we want to use the method that is most effective. It's not always going to be the AI selection way. Now we need to output this, so I want to darken it. So again, I'm going to grab a curves adjustment. So click on that, and we're going to put it in the multiply blend mode. So click on the multiply button, and now it's darkened, but it's way too dark. So just take the opacity. I like to take it the whole way off and then just build it up slowly. And I think to maybe right around here. Okay, so here is the before and here's the after. So now our eye's not drawn so much to the handbag. The last thing I want to do is just tone this coat down a little bit. It's a little bit too light, and I just want to add a little bit of a warm color grade to it. But I think the best way to make this mask is with a luminosity mask because it's very light. If we play our cards right, we won't need any AI tools. We could do this all with the power of the TK8 plugin for Photoshop. Let's give it a try. We'll go with the luminosity mask, so click on the luminosity mask button. And it's very light. There's lights 1. Let's try lights 2. Lights 2 gives us really great separation. Now let's play with our channels. Let's try red. No. Let's try green. Better. Let's try blue. Even better. Cyan's going to be about the same. Here's magenta. No. Here's yellow. No. Let's go back to blue. It's a good one, but look how it's separated this coat. Now all we need to do is lasso around it. I'll use the shortcut L for the lasso tool, and we'll just simply lasso around just like that. Quick and easy. Next, just click on the mask button. And we don't want any feathering, so click cancel. And there is our selection. But wait, Houston, there's a problem. Do you see this area right here and over here? Let's see if we can fix that by clicking on the levels adjustment. We can still use this. And let's go ahead and see if I can tighten this up. I'm going to take the shadow slider and drag it in like that. Right there, cleaned it up. And I'll take the highlight slider and drag it to the left a little bit just to lighten it up. And maybe the mid-tone slider. I don't want to lose any of the detail in the coat. And I fixed it. So after the fact, we can still use these tools right here. Very important. But how about that selection without any AI tools? Now we just need to output this. I'm going to use a color grading tool, so click on the color grading button, color grading tool button that is. I'm just going to work with the mid-tone and just drag this mid-tone back to right about there. It just darkens up the coat, and just let's add a little bit of warmth. See that? Just a nice little bit of warmth to kind of go with this handbag here. Here is the before and here's the after. I'm going to finish it off real quick with a vignette. So I'm going to click on my TK Actions, click on the basic vignette, click OK, and I just think I'll take the opacity. The action defaults at 50%. Let's take it back to right about here, 39%. Here is the before and here's the after. Now here's our overall before and after. I'm just going to use my before and after action. Here's the overall before, and now here's the after. But isn't that a lot nicer? But now let's move on to another example. This is going to be a quick one. Here's another example of a precision adjustment, but only using the TK8 plugin for Photoshop to do it. What I want to do is take this green area, all this grassy area here, and just lighten it up slightly and give it a little bit more vibrant color. It's going to be quick and easy. And what mask do you think I'm going to use? Well, if you thought the color mask, you're correct. But I got this color grading tool here. Whenever you see this here, just click on the X and it goes away. No big deal. Click on this button for the color mask, and we're going to click some of this green color right here. I think will be good, and click OK. And we have a pretty good selection, but we need to refine it some. Let's go ahead and lighten it up with this adjustment. Drag this to the right and lighten up that area. I think somewhere right around there should get it. We can refine even further by clicking on the levels adjustment. I always pretty much use this. Drag this highlight slider and drag it over to about here. And maybe take the midtone slider and drag it over a little bit more just to lighten it up, just so we get a really nice selection. And let's use a color grading tool because I want to lighten and also give it a little more green vibrancy. So let's click on the color grading tool icon. And now with the midtone only, click on the midtone block and let's lighten up the grass. Just like that. And let's shift this into a little more greenish yellow. Just like that. Look at that. Before and after. And now let's move on to the last image where I'll be doing a double calculation while creating the mask, kind of like I did last week. If you missed last week's video, go back and watch it. I will link it at the end of this video. It was an important one. There's some really good stuff in there, so you want to make sure you give that a watch. I just have two adjustments to make. The first one's going to be easy, and that's going to be to darken up this orange tone in this mountain. Darken it up a bit and also give it a little bit more saturation. Now we have color here, so our best mask is always going to be the color mask creator. So let's click X to get out of the color grading tool. Click on this button to generate a color mask, and let's find a color we want, like an orange tone, like right here, and click OK. And we get a really nice selection. But let's lighten it up. I think somewhere right about there is good. I'm not even going to use levels this time. I think we're good. I don't need an AI selection here. I can just lasso around here and use mask the mask. So I'm going to type L to get my lasso tool and just come right around like so and grab this area like that. And just click the mask icon. No feathering, so click cancel. And there's our selection. Now let's just output this to a color grading tool. And I want to darken it up, so I'm going to use midtones. It's always the first one to go to in my opinion. And let's just drag it to the left a little bit just to darken that up a little bit. Maybe just a little bit more to maybe right around there. And let's shift this over into the orangish red tones here. Just like that. See how that increases that saturation? Here is the before. And here's the after, but it targets that entire mountain, right like so. So here's the before and here's the after. If you ever want to see what your mask looks like on the CXR combo panel, click the double arrow icon and you can see your mask. Click it again and you come back to the image. For the final adjustment, I feel the blue in this snow shadow area is too blue, so I do want to tone that down, and also some of the blue up here in the mountain, but I don't want to affect the sky. And this is where a double calculation will come into play while making this mask. Are you up for that challenge? Well, let's give it a shot. Now, I want to tone down this blue. I want to desaturate it some, but I do not want to desaturate the pants of this man or woman standing here in the snow, because this subject is very important because it shows how big this mountain really is, but I don't want to lose any of that saturation in the pants. This is where that double calculation comes into play. Now we're working with color here, this blue color, so a color mask will be the best way to go. So let's X out of the color grading tool, click on the color mask icon, and let's find some of the blue in here that we want to tone down, like right here, and click OK. And that makes a nice selection. But let's use this brightness adjustment to lighten that selection up even more to give us a much stronger selection. right about there. Now notice the pants are selected in here, but we'll take care of that. The sky is also very much selected. Not a good thing, but we'll take care of that too. Let's click on the mask calculator button, and we'll go ahead and subtract this sky from our selection. Click on the minus button to subtract. Next, we'll click the X so we could get back to the multi-mask panel. Now we need to select the sky because we're going to subtract it. So let's come to the CX or combo panel and click right here. This button will select the sky, and now our sky is selected. And next, and this is very important, come up to this button. This is your My Channels button. Click it and click on Active Selection. And now you can see our sky selected. But I really want to make this a really tight, perfect selection along here. You can see it bleeds into this area right here. You can see it's like a light gray color here. But we're going to use a levels adjustment to take care of that. Click on Levels. And I'm going to take the shadow slider and drag it way into like around right here at 110. And now you see how tight that got? Got rid of all the highlights in the mountain. And now I'm going to take the highlight slider and drag it in to right about here. And now I've got rid of all that light gray in there, and I have a really tight selection. And now let's complete the calculation by clicking on the equals. And now you can see my sky has been subtracted. But now I want to take care of the pants here, so we're going to work on that next. And now for the second calculation, click on the mask calculator, and I want to subtract the subject. Some of him is already subtracted, but I'll just select the entire subject. No big deal. I'm really interested in the pants only. Next, click on the minus. Now let's X out of here by clicking on this X. And now we need to select this subject. We can use the object selection tool. I'm going to type my W key to get my object selection tool. And I'm going to change this to lasso. And we'll just lasso right around the man right here. And he gets selected. Or the woman, I'm not sure. And now next, most importantly, come up and click on the My Channels button. Don't forget this step or you won't be happy. So click on that. Click on the active selection, and there's the subject selected right there, right? And now let's make the calculation by clicking equals. And now you can see the man is subtracted, the sky is subtracted. That's a double calculation. And now we need to output this to make the actual adjustment. So I think here I'm going to use a hue saturation adjustment. And so we want to click this icon right here, and that loads that mask up onto that hue saturation adjustment layer. And now it's simple. Let's desaturate this blue snow. Any blue up in here will get desaturated as well. So I'm going to take this saturation adjustment and drag it to the left to right around there. And let's take a look. Here is the before, and here's the after. The man's pants stay just at the same saturation level they were at, and we have not affected the sky. Again, here is the before and the after. Here's the overall before, and here's the overall after. Now, the snow here is not completely desaturated. You know, it still has saturation on it, but, you know, it's much less than it originally had, and I think it looks a lot better. Well, there it is. This was part 3 of a 3-part series on precision adjustments beyond AI. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and if you're not yet a subscriber to this channel, please subscribe and click that bell notification icon. Each time I upload a new tutorial, you'll get a notification. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly, and I'll see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing!